The human mind is a maze, and sometimes we are the ones lost within it. We constantly think, worry about things that haven't happened, analyzing ourselves to the point of exhaustion, only to realize the harder we try to understand, the further we drift from the peace. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." That is not just advice, it is a call to awaken. Because most of our suffering does not come from this world, but from how we react to it. Not because life is chaotic, but because we allow our minds to be swept into that storm, not knowing when to stop. Overthinking is a familiar spiral. It starts with a small worry, then multiplies into dozens, hundreds of other branches, until we lose the present moment itself. We try to analyze, try to understand, try to control. But the harder we try to grasp, the more things slip from our control. The Stoics do not try to suppress that flow of thought. They simply stand still and observe, like watching clouds drift across the sky. Because when you stop forcing control, peace will naturally return. And today, we will embark on that journey. 7 Stoic lessons to help you escape the cycle of overthinking, regain clarity, and return to an inner state of peace, where your mind is no longer the ruler, but a companion. Let's begin with the first principle, the guiding star for all actions and for how we view ourselves. Number 1, you are not your thoughts. Imagine your mind as a vast sky, and your thoughts are merely clouds drifting by. Some days the sky is clear and blue, but at other times, dark clouds gather and storms erupt. Yet, no matter how fierce the storm is, the sky is always there, vast, deep, and unchanging. We often forget that. We let the clouds define the entire sky. When a negative thought appears, we tend to believe it is the truth. We allow them to invade our emotions, dominate our behavior, and gradually forget that those thoughts are just passers-by. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Keep your mind tranquil, for therein lies the source of strength." The Stoics understood that thoughts are not the enemy, they are just the mind's natural reflexes. The problem is not having thoughts, but how far we let them pull us along. When we lose the ability to stand outside of what is happening within us, we lose our freedom. Try to stop and observe yourself. When a stream of thought appears, don't react immediately. Imagine you are looking through a pane of glass. On the other side is that stream of thought, moving, changing shape, and eventually dissolving. You don't need to chase it. You don't need to fight it. You just need to realize, this is a thought, not a fact. The more you practice this, the more you will recognize a simple yet profound truth. You cannot control every thought, but you can choose which thoughts are allowed to stay. And when you separate yourself from those clouds, you will see the sky again, still, accepting, and free. Number 2, return to the present. There is something strange. A person can be standing right in the present moment, yet their mind drifts elsewhere. One part lives in the past, where memories have not closed. The other part lives in the future, where we imagine scenarios that haven't arrived, fearing things that haven't happened. And the present, the only moment that truly exists, is forgotten. It is there that exhaustion begins. When our minds keep drifting between what if and if only, between regret and worry, we lose the most precious thing, the life happening right now. The Stoics understood this well. They believed that no one can live peacefully if their mind keeps wandering between the past and the future. True strength only comes when we pull our minds back to the present and live fully in every moment. Seneca once wrote that, "We are afflicted not by the present, but by the way we magnify it with our fears of the future." The present has never been a burden. It is only an overthinking mind that makes it heavy. When we learn to stop, feel our breath, and listen to the sounds around us, we are gradually reclaiming control. Because peace does not lie in eliminating thoughts, but in bringing the mind back to where it belongs, this very moment. In any moment of the day when you realize you are lost in a spiral of overthinking, just stop. Inhale deeply, exhale slowly, and ask yourself, right now, where am I? That simple question is enough to pull you back. When your mind stops in the present, everything immediately becomes clear. The past cannot be changed, the future has not arrived, and only this moment is real. The Stoics call that freedom, when you are no longer tied down by what does not exist. Number 3. Calm within chaos. In life, no one can avoid moments of chaos. It might be a heated argument, an unexpected criticism, or a day when everything is messed up, and you don't know why. At that point, your mind begins to react like a stirred lake. Layers of emotions arise: anger, fear, anxiety, followed by relentless overthinking. And if we don't realize it, we can easily get swept away, losing our inherent peace. The Stoics believe that chaos does not come from the outside world, but from how we allow it to touch us within. No event truly causes us suffering unless we allow it to linger in our minds for too long. They view composure as a skill, the ability to stand firm amidst all of life's impacts, without letting the mind be pulled along by what is beyond control. Composure is not avoidance, but choosing a different reaction, observing instead of reacting, understanding instead of judging. One morning, you are driving in heavy traffic. Honking horns, smog, and rush make everyone tense. Someone cuts you off, blocking your car. Typically, you would get angry, grip the steering wheel, and exclaim, "Unconscious!" But if you take a deep breath, remain silent for a few seconds, and then release your grip on the steering wheel, you will see a simple fact. It is just a normal situation in life. In that moment, you are no longer controlled by the chaos, but you are the one observing it pass by. Composure begins with very small choices: a breath, a pause, a moment of non-reaction. When you choose silence instead of retaliation, choose understanding instead of condemnation, you are holding steady to your center amidst a constantly spinning world. And then you will realize, true peace does not arrive after everything settles down, but exists right in the midst of the movement, where your mind is tranquil and the world continues to flow. Number 4. Action over analysis. When facing a problem, the first human instinct is to think. We think about the causes, the consequences, what could happen, the right and wrong choices, and then we think about our thoughts themselves. In an instant, we get stuck in a dense web of analysis and assumption, where all possibilities are open, but none are executed. Overthinking is like standing in front of a door, constantly hesitating to walk through, simply because we fear what awaits us on the other side. The Stoics believe that action, no matter how small, is always the antidote to a troubled mind. Because while thinking exhausts us, action brings us back to reality. They don't oppose thinking, but they understand that true wisdom lies not in knowing too much, but in doing the right thing, even without having all the answers. Action helps us break free from the vicious cycle of anxiety and self-doubt, bringing the energy stuck in our minds back to its natural flow. How many times have you sat before a decision, analyzing every possible scenario, writing down countless what-ifs and buts, only to realize that time has passed and you've done nothing? While we are preoccupied with fear, others have already moved forward. Sometimes, just one small action, Sending that message, starting that task, or simply doing the first thing that comes to mind is enough to create momentum. One action, no matter how small, is stronger than 100 unformed thoughts. When we act, the mind no longer has room to spin in anxiety. Every deed becomes a breath of the present, pulling us out of the fog of assumption. The Stoics don't wait until everything is perfect. They start from where they are with what they have. They understand that only when you step out will the road gradually reveal itself beneath your feet. And when you dare to act, you will see that most of the things that worried you never truly existed. They only lived in your overthinking mind. Because action is the only bridge that leads you from fear to freedom. Number 5. Gratitude over fear. Fear always seeks to creep into our minds with whispers. What if things get worse? What if I fail? And in an instant, those thoughts can magnify everything tenfold, making us forget that most of what we fear is still just an assumption. The Stoics do not evade fear. They replace it with something stronger, gratitude. Because when we are grateful, the mind immediately shifts perspective. Instead of focusing on what might be lost, we see what remains. When gratitude appears, fear no longer has room to grow, because no one can be both grateful and fearful in the same breath. There are mornings you wake up and feel like the world is against you. A failed project, a friend turning away, an uncertain future ahead. But then you step outside, see the sun's rays shining through the leaves, and feel the gentle breeze on your skin. These seemingly small things remind us that life has never been entirely about loss. No matter what bad thing is happening, you still have something to be grateful for. A breath, an opportunity, a new day to start over. Gratitude does not make difficulties disappear, but it expands our hearts enough to hold both joy and worry. When we learn to be grateful even amidst imperfections, we are no longer obsessed with what we lack. Because gratitude is an act of awareness. It's how we tell ourselves, I am enough in this very moment. And that is the key difference between those who live in fear and those who live in peace. The fearful person sees the void, while the grateful person sees the light. Number 6. Train in adversity. Humans often tend to avoid anything that makes them uncomfortable. We seek convenience, familiar routines, and safe places for the mind to rest. But excessive comfort actually weakens us. When we no longer face difficulties, we forget how to stand firm against adversity. The Stoics understood that if we do not train in hardship, we will easily collapse when facing life's major upheavals. Training in hardship does not mean seeking suffering, but actively confronting it. The Stoics often practice this with small actions, sleeping less comfortably, eating more simply, or deliberately doing something they dreaded. Every time we step out of our comfort zone, even by just one step, the mind becomes stronger. Inner strength is not forged during calm days, but from the difficult ones themselves. There is a strange power in actively facing difficulty. When we choose the hard path over the easy one, choose acceptance over complaint, the mind begins to change. Every time you overcome a small challenge, whether it's being more patient in a tense conversation or finishing a task when motivation is gone, you are quietly forging inner resilience, so that when life brings bigger challenges, you will be stable enough to face them. Training in adversity is not about proving strength, but about reminding yourself that you can endure more than you think. Because when you dare to confront what you fear, that fear loses its power. Ultimately, you will understand that comfort does not make us free. It is the ability to endure that helps us stay calm amidst all changes. Number 7. Zoom out. Life is short. Sometimes, just by taking a step back, everything changes. The things that once exhausted us with overthinking, when viewed from a greater distance, turn out to be incredibly small. We often magnify the problems right in front of us, as if they were the whole world, until time passes, and we realize how much energy we wasted on things that no longer matter. The Stoics often practice a simple yet very practical habit. They remind themselves of the shortness of life. Seneca once wrote, "It is not that we have too little time, but that we waste a great deal of it." That quote is a wake-up call that every moment we are living is the actual part of our life, and dwelling too much on trivial matters only makes us forget the greater truth, that this life is finite. Try to think about your recent worries. How many of them will truly matter when viewed from the perspective of a year or 10 years from now? When we zoom out, the incidents that once made us angry, hurt, or disappointed become nothing more than a few grains of sand in the flow of time. Everything passes, and so will we. The only thing that remains is how we live in this moment, with composure, with kindness, and with true presence. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself daily to look at life as if standing on high ground, observing the moving sea of humanity. In that view, private worries shrink, and we see the bigger picture more clearly, that each person is just a small part of the infinite current of the universe. When we understand that time waits for no one, we begin to live differently. We stop seeking perfection, stop caring about gain or loss, praise or criticism. We learn to cherish the simple things, a meal with family, a new day to come. When you zoom out far enough, you realize everything will be lost. Only the way you live today will truly remain. Perhaps what truly exhausts us is not life itself, but the way we constantly think about it. The mind keeps racing between the past and the future, creating countless scenarios just to hurt itself. But when we stop, with just a deep breath, a moment of stillness, we realize that peace has never left. It is still there, waiting for us to return. These 7 Stoic lessons are not philosophies to memorize, but a path to live by. When you observe instead of react, are grateful instead of fearful, act instead of hesitate, and learn to stand firm amidst hardship, your mind gradually returns to itself, clear, stable, and free. Peace is not the final prize of the journey, but something you can find right now, in the way you look, the way you breathe, and the way you live. If these lessons have touched you, join us on this journey by subscribing to the channel and sharing your thoughts. Who knows, your story might be the light for someone else who is lost in their own overthinking.